Okay, today I'm here with Dan Hiebert from Minnesota State Mankato, and welcome back to the iWealth podcast. So today, Dan, just want to, before we get into your book, which is super exciting, I just wanted the audience to know a little bit more about you. So you and I probably met, 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe even longer than that. How long have you been at Minnesota State Mankato?
This is my 8th year. And by the way, thank you for inviting me. This is just great. I can cross this off my bucket list now. It was towards the top too. So, but yeah, so I've been here at Minnesota State for 8 years. And so as you say, I'm the director of the financial planning program, our CFP program at Minnesota State. Before that, I spent most of my time in the private sector with a long time at Ameriprise, and then had a book of business, sold that, went to the corporate office, got into some leadership positions there, and left there, went to a consulting company and worked on a variety of different things, worked on some larger folks like SEI and United Capital on acquisition work. So that's kind of my specialty. Is business valuation, succession planning, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome.
So great. We have great kids. We have very hardworking, very diligent, hardworking kids that really get after it. And I was so impressed by that. So if you're out there and you're recruiting, come to our campus here. We'll definitely get that.
Yeah. We've hired some people from Minnesota State Mankato. They have been great kids, trained well. So let's talk about the kids for a minute. What has happened? I mean, you've been teaching through COVID now, so big changes there, hence probably why some online stuff now too. But is the program growing? What are you seeing in the world of financial advisors right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that COVID really changed a lot of the kids' perspective. So now online is now the trend. So students actually like learning online. As far as their actual personalities and things like that, I don't think a lot of that has changed, but I think it's important for people to remember that this is Gen Z, and Gen Z they are different than millennials.
How so?
Well, I read this in the Wall Street Journal by a demographer, if I'm pronouncing that right, who said that it's like you gave a kid that grew up in the Depression an iPhone. They're very serious. They're very career focused and money focused. It's almost scary. I don't get a lot of smiles like I used to after COVID. And some of the reasons that are cited are that a lot of these kids, they saw what happened maybe to their parents in 2008, 2009. They also, probably went through drills and school shootings. So, they're a little bit more concerned about that, more safety conscious. The iPhone, you take a picture of someone and now it goes viral. So they're very concerned about their privacy, confidentiality. They saw maybe how their older siblings got in trouble with student loans. So I have kids that I'm not exaggerating, they're taking 5 classes and working 2 jobs.
Wow.
Yeah. I had one student that, I was just joking around with him before class, and I just say, "Hey, how's work going for you?" Because I like to get to know the kids. And he works at a feedlot until 2 a.m. every day, and then comes home, showers, takes a cat nap, comes to school, goes back to the feedlot at night. Good kid, very diligent, always showed up for class. But I think that's kind of the personality and mentality that we're seeing there. And then
they're really good savers to your point, right? They're really good savers. I think they also put a lot of emphasis on experiences and purpose, about maybe saving for that next trip that they're going to have an experience with their friends or something like that on too.
In our program, we have 33 program partners, and they integrate with our program at different levels. That's how they get involved. So you've been in our classroom, you come to our club, and they learn from people. So they see the profession and they see how great it is that they help people. And so I think that's another reason why we're growing. And, we're over 150 now. We want to get to 400. It's 3,000 hours, which works out to be 1,000 hours. So it's about 3 years, 1,000 hours a year. And then you got to pass the board exam. 6 hours, 170 questions, do it at a testing center. Pass rate is between 55 and 65% by design. So they use a certain scoring method. Our students, honestly, were between 70 and 90. In the last two cycles, we're at 100. Yeah. So, yeah. And I think, again, it's just the students get after it. They understand we don't teach to the test, but we cut out a lot of the nice to knows, which I'm not putting those down at all. But, these kids want a career.
I want to talk about the career, and you did this book, Succession Simplified, the primer on transitioning planning to your family business, that you just put out. So congratulations on that. I want to talk about it, but what are you seeing? So when we talk about these kids now, young adults that are becoming financial advisors, the 50, the 150, and then maybe half of those go in the financial planning field, like some might go work at a bank or something like that, right? Too. Um, what kind of opportunities are you seeing? And then tell me about the book. Like, why did you do this? What was the why behind it? And then what's in it? And why should someone take a look at it?
Yeah, for sure. First part, where we're seeing students go to are a lot of the independent firms. So we have a good relationship with Charles Schwab. They help fund our program. So we see a lot of them now going to independent firms. So we still have the big players where students are going to, Ameriprise and Northwestern Mutual and some other, which is great. I mean, those are great places. They get a lot of training. But,
Yep.
I think for us, our heart is really with the independent entrepreneur such as yourself.
Yeah, iWealth obviously fits into that as well, being a hybrid.
Yeah. And you've got our students there, so that's great. I am seeing, and it's interesting, not to get too far into it, but what we're seeing, kind of to your point, is that students are not necessarily going into client-facing roles. A fair number of them are actually going into a little bit more management or back behind the scenes roles where they're putting together portfolios. And that's where they want to go. They're not interested in doing any client-facing work. We're also seeing some students actually, like you say, 56, the 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds that want to transition their book. We're seeing them come on to those firms as well. So, and they're actually, taking, not maybe at that exact time, but taking an equity portion in the business. So the book will transition to the junior advisor over time. So maybe they'll get the C&D clients, a few signature clients like that. And then just maybe work with the sibling or kids of the A and B clients, just kind of help them get their feet wet in the relationships and so forth. I'm actually with some other advisors putting together some programming for our students around that. So we're working on, and we're going to test it out next semester, is leading a financial planning firm. So it's going to be a 9-module video test, because when you come into a firm and maybe you're not going to get into a leadership position, but at least you want to understand how it works at that firm. We want to make sure our kids get that leg up, and are kind of getting back to your earlier question on elite universities. Texas Tech, Kansas State, Georgia, Utah Valley. These are all big elite university programs. And we're getting there. We've got, some of those programs have 400, 500 students in there. So we want to get to that level, and we're getting to, we've got firms that when they look to recruit, they look at Minnesota State. And so we want to just continue and just really keep that mindset of the recruiters in there. So,
well, there's definitely that spot with the demographics and baby boomers and people retiring and financial advisors getting older. Like there's some room for these young adults to come in and start working. I've noticed that too in my own practice, that, for the first year or two, it's customer service work. It's changing addresses, distributions, it's those kind of things, but sitting in client meetings and getting experience. And then as a paraplanner, doing financial plans for clients and things like that. And eventually getting to that client-facing one-on-one type situation. But it is a progression that's there. So let's head to the book. So tell me about the book. Tell me the why. Have you ever did this before? Is this first time? And then how's it going?
Well, you know how hard it is to get a book out, for sure. It was a lot of work. But starting kind of at square one. So before I got into financial services, I was an entrepreneur. I had 2 partners with me. And, I always looked at that our business with my two partners as more of an investment. They looked at it more as a livelihood and an extension of sales. And where it kind of came to a head was we got a really nice off. We had a very nice business. It was growing, doubling in size every year. We just caught the fitness craze right at the right time. So it was really, growing a business like that, doubling has its own set of headaches, but we did have some of the headaches that other businesses had that are going in the other direction. So we got a really nice offer. But my partners just really were reluctant to sell, and I appreciate that. They had their logical reasons. So I kind of had that experience. I eventually sold my shares. They're still very good friends of mine. And then when I had my financial planning practice, I grew that for about 6 or 7 years and got a job at the corporate office. But I looked at my practice as a business. I have clients that are still my friends. I understand that part. There's good relationships. In fact, I'm having lunch with one next week. But um, so I kind of had that personal experience. But then what really was the catalyst here and the why was I teach for the American College. My specialty is business valuation. So I teach a graduate course for students that are working on their graduate degree. I teach business succession. And these are CPAs, attorneys, smart folks, and firm leaders. And so we actually were in Philadelphia at their classroom on campus there. And I had a planner talk to me a little bit afterwards. I get to know them as well. And he said, Dan, I wish I would have known this stuff before. I said, really, kind of tell me your story. And he said, well, I had this business owner client. He's from Utah. So it was in Park City, Utah. And great business. They had multiple family members that owned the business and had a good, strong relationship with the primary owner. And he wanted to sell his business. He wanted to transition his business to his family. And we set up meetings and we kind of had some discovery discussions on how that's going to look and all that. And he said, just meetings started to get canceled. Text messages and emails didn't get returned. Phone calls didn't get returned. And this kind of went on for about 2 years. And finally, I just was able to get a hold of him. And I said, hey, just be candid with me. What's going on here? Because I'm just sensing something is not quite right. And he says, you know what? I'm just not ready. I want to die at my desk. I don't, my family's not ready to take over the business. And I'm really not ready to let it go. I started it from scratch. This is me. And he said to me, I wish I would have known that 2 years ago. Really wasted my time. I wasted their time. I wasted my time and money that I could have spent just by knowing that up front. And that was, I kind of,
It's so true. Like I wrote Fish Don't Clap. And the reason my why is because I helped too many people retire and they shouldn't have, because they lacked that purpose. This guy figured out that there was some purpose involved and he didn't want to get out of it, So it's super interesting. Like we see it all the time with our clients on, are you really ready to retire to the next phase? I just got done an hour ago talking to a close friend of mine that's a financial advisor that's going to retire. And the whole conversation was retiring to what?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Like what's your
Exactly.
purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you hear this story, you got your personal story that led to the book then?
Yeah. Well, it led to my dissertation. When I did my dissertation for my doctorate, I was able to get data from 347 family businesses. And so I used that data. And my big question was, who uses a succession planner in the transition of their business and who doesn't? So I really wanted to know who works with someone and who doesn't. And I use the term succession planning only because, there are financial planners that work with business owners on their insurance and, maybe some other things. I wanted to really zero in on succession planning. So, and I define that in my data collection. So people were clear on why I was using that term. So, and what I found was that family business owners who were irrationally, emotionally attached to the business tended to not use a planner. So we built, further on, I have a program where I build assessment tools to try and find that. But and and if they want to stay with, and let me just back up. It's everybody knows that business owners are emotionally attached. I mean, that's no secret.
And
You have to
and you're
be.
going to sell it someday.
You're going to
You're
sell
going
it
to
some.
die with it.
Yep.
And it's going to be sold, right? Or you're going to sell it internally or externally.
Exactly. And you have to be emotionally attached to work the long hours, to worry about meeting payroll the next week or dealing with banks and things like that. But when it becomes irrational, then that's where problems start, where just like you say, the transition doesn't become successful. And I kind of liked how you put it, retiring to something. I think that, and you'll agree or disagree, but it's not a death sentence when you transition your business. You could still be on the board. You could still be involved in some way, but you're passing it off. And what the research shows is that family business owners or business owners that don't do don't have a successful transition, procrastinate, which is why we call it simplified, is that they procrastinate. The next generation loses interest. They tend to get more status quo. The business starts to tail off, and then it's too late. Your value that you had hoped for in your business just doesn't materialize. And today, that's even more important than it used to be. With technology, AI, I had a business owner say just not too long ago, Dan, we used to do, when we did our long-term strategic planning, we would do it over 10 years. We can't do that anymore. It's got to be 2 to 3 years. Things are changing so rapidly that we have to keep up. And so there, again, are you going to be able to keep up with that, or is the next generation that has that mentality able to have that business and retain that value in order to make it successful? So
Yeah.
a lot of moving parts.
So with the book, then this book is geared towards a business owner, right? Not just a financial advisor, a business owner that needs to someday consider what that next phase is. That next phase, I've heard 5 years seems to be what kind of stands out in my mind. Like you should be planning at least 5 years before you make an adjustment. What does your research say? And then, what's the aha out of the book, out of the research that you have?
Yeah. First, though, what I did, and this was my design. This was my reason the whole time, was I took my dissertation, boiled it into this book. So I wanted to eventually have a book for the public. So you're right. It's for the target reader is the family business owner, but I'm marketing these through financial planners and CPAs to give to their family business owners. And there's a word primer on it. This is just to get the wheels started and help deal with that procrastination. So what could happen is you could get it as a financial planner, you could use this book in 1 to 4 levels. Level 1 is just give it to your client and say, hey, this is a good book for you if you're thinking about succession planning, good book to just get the wheel started. Or it could be, hey, here's this book. There's a lot of exercises in here. Why don't you and I just meet on a regular basis and we'll go through some of them, and I'll maybe hold you accountable, perhaps. I don't want to use that word, but sometimes you have to. So that could be level 2. Level 3 was maybe we do a workshop we get our family business owners together, go through some of the concepts in the book. I'll help you put a PowerPoint together. We've got resources on my website that we can use. Might be more train the trainer, though. We want you to do this instead of me. So that'd be level 3. And level 4 is, I think that kind of the future is that when you look at a financial wealth management organization, there's a team format in a lot of cases where you've got the planner, you've got the estate planner, you've got the CPA. I think that the future could be you've got a succession strategist on your team as well to help that business owner maximize the value in the most effective and efficient way so that their succession is more successful. Second part of your question, though, if there's a good study, 5 years, maybe a little longer, maybe 10 to 15, that was the findings that PwC did. So when they looked at what is the sweet spot for getting it started, they looked at about 10 to 15 years. There's a great survey. Maybe we put a link on somewhere. It's the PwC 2016 missing middle. So that's the piece that they did. So PwC is the big 4 accounting firm and consulting firm. They are a global organization. They did a global survey And what they found was that missing middle piece is where the succession planning should happen. In other words, the start of it is your startup phase, kitchen table, garage, or thinking about how to start up your business. A lot of energy there, a lot of consultants help you, funding perhaps. Then the end, so I'm going to bracket this a little bit, the exit phase. A lot of wealth managers, and they should be, are helping their clients exit the business, sell it, go to whatever's next. So they got that end piece. It's the middle piece that sometimes gets neglected. And that's where strategic planning, strategic growth, forming your board of directors, training your leaders to be able to lead the business without you. So you've got that taken care of in that middle piece. If you do the middle piece right, your exit becomes that much better. You're set up for it. It's getting that nice running start. And I'll say this too, as a financial planner, there's a lot of energy and a lot of activity and a lot of competition at that exit phase. And a lot of us have experienced, hey, I got this referral. I talked to my business owner buddy and he's going to sell this business and he needs a planner. Do you want to help him kind of navigate through what's next for him? That certainly can be effective for sure. But wouldn't it be even more effective if you develop that relationship in that middle piece? It builds that competitive immunity so that the business deep down. You've got help them with the strategies of how to build and maximize that business.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, Dan, because I've noticed over the last 5 to 10 years, more of my clients that are looking at that. It's just the demographics and baby boomers that are selling or looking at selling. In my estimation, most of them wait too long. So probably, again, why he wrote the book. Like most of them don't get ready soon enough for that. And again, you're going to get rid of it at some point. You're going to die and it's going to go, or you're going to sell it internally or externally. Just get the numbers right. Get your head around that. I went out and got my certified exit planning advisor, my SEPA, a couple of years ago because I've had these conversations with clients. The problem is they're bringing us in even too late, where it should be in that middle ground where we're starting to have this conversation prior, because there's all kinds of planning topics that come up when you exit a business, right? Yeah.
And the good news is there's resources. I agree with everything that you just said. There's good news that there's resources in that middle phase. So there's technology. Riser is a great tool now for actually helping track the value of your business on a regular basis by linking QuickBooks. It'll integrate into the Riser technology. So you'll see on your dashboard the value of business on a regular basis by looking at your EBITDA, looking at a multiple that you'll think through. Boom, it's right there. Great firm. There's also education now. The American colleges coming up with their advancing their designation in business succession planning. So that's also from an education standpoint. How do we work with business owners on that middle piece so that we have that competitive immunity once our business owner gets that exit phase? So
yeah. Where can somebody pick up the book? So you got a website?
It's danhiebertphd.com. That was my publishers. I fought them, but they said, no, Dan, this is what you should have. And I went with them. If you're ever going to write a book, Wise Inc. is the place to go. They were extremely helpful. Yeah. And Amazon, just go to Amazon, look on there. We were the best seller for a while in that category of strategic planning. So, so it's starting to get out there, but
that's great. It's such an accomplishment. But your why is interesting because it wasn't to be rich and famous. It was to get the data out so you could help people, and that's really, really cool that you're able to do that. To wrap this up, though, I want to have a real quick conversation to finish this up about the future that you think there is for the financial advisor community. So these 150 students that are coming through, they're going to be 400 students. Like, we know there's opportunities demographic wise. We've already talked about that. How are things going to change for that financial advisor that started 30 years ago, like me, versus the advisors now? What's going to be different due to AI and other things that are out there 5-10 years from now? Where's the puck?
Yeah, boy, that could go a lot of different directions. I think that, like you say, AI is definitely going to be a change maker. It's already starting. I was just listening to a webinar about compliance in AI. If you're getting that information and using it, you have to make sure it's compliant. I didn't even think about that. But I think that AI is going to change it. Maybe I'm just an optimist, and I don't have a crystal ball any more than anybody else does, but I think it's going to be a positive. I think it's going to help make an advisor more productive. I'm using it right now in a lot of ways. I wish I would have had that when I had that book. It could have made it a lot more faster to do. I have a colleague that's writing her book. This is her second book, and she's using AI for a lot of it. So that just get it out faster. And I think that what's going to help. And I know you're really plugged in technology wise, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But it's just going to make things better. I think big picture, though, I think that kind of as you say, things are changing quite a bit. Schwab has made it public that they think that in the next 9 to 10 years, there's a need for 50 to 70,000 advisors. So that's what's driving a part of that 150 as well. And I think there's three reasons. One, as you say, people are getting older and they want to get out of the business or just do something else. So there's that. I think the public is getting more wealthy. Maybe we don't hear that so much in the media, but there's a lot of wealth generated. I just read in the Wall Street Journal, per capita wealth in Arkansas, which is one of our poorest states, is higher than it is in Germany. So our country and our people are getting more and more wealthy, and they're going to need help with that. And then third, things are getting more complex because there's private equity coming into the mainstream and the public. So those three forces are really driving that. But it's AI. I also think too, there's an untapped market. I mean, less than 1% use a financial planner. How does the other 99%?
Right.
So maybe it's just coaching. Maybe I don't need that one-on-one view. Maybe I just do some coaching where I'm paid for it, but maybe we do a subscription model or something like that. So I've got this one main model where it's AUM, maybe retainer hourly rate, and that's for the folks that really need that guidance to be able to help them reach their goals. But then we've got this other model over here where maybe they get the subscription model. And here's what we're looking at for the market, like kind of what you do, with your market, but taxes, how you improve your retirement picture. I mean, what do you think about all?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about, we used the word accountability before. I really think that AI will help. I agree. I'm not scared of it. I think it's going to help us be better. But I do think it's still knee to knee with clients, Zoom to Zoom, whatever that is, being able to help them with those big picture things that come up, the life events, the inheritance, the divorce, the sudden death, like those type of things. They just don't, I just can't imagine going to Chat GPT that doesn't have any empathy to be able to get those answers or trust those answers, that you're going to get an answer, but do you trust it? And then how do you put it to work? I think there's going to be a subset of people are still going to want to trust that human being that's going to ask them questions that chat doesn't know what to ask, have empathy, and then solve the problem. So I think it really gets simplified down the road. I think if your value proposition is picking mutual funds, I think you're done. Like that's gone away because you can use AI to do it. And if your value proposition is I'm cheaper than somebody else, that's done because someone's going to be cheaper than you. I think the future of financial planning is empathy and asking those questions and then bringing the who's together, working with the tax advisor, working with the lawyer, working with the trust person to make sure that those things happen correctly. So I think the future is bright for these kids, but it's a different world than it was even 4 or 5 years ago that they're going to be stepping into.
Well, how would you just kind of turn it over? Question for you. So you're a successful firm owner, growing. What should I be talking about with my kids about the future career? I need to learn from you. So
Yeah, I mean, it's what we just got done talking about, but it's embracing technology, right? Use technology to help them be better servants to their clients. But it's really the behavioral finance side of things. Yeah. It's having empathy. It's asking questions. I brought in our new advisor just yesterday because a client wasn't happy about a life insurance bill that they received. It was nothing that we did. It was the insurance company. It was supposed to happen. But you have to be able to have empathy with the person on the other end of the line, and you have to help them and reasonably help them. AI is not going to do that. And so I think more and more and more, the financial advisors need to have, call it just more behavioral science behind them. How do they talk to people? How do they empathize with people?
Yeah.
Those are things, the skill set. They can be smart, But if they can't get on the same page with the client, if they can't shake their hand and look them in the eye, like those soft skills is what I spend most of my time with my new advisors, because they're smart. That's fine. I need to be able to teach them to be able to be needy with clients and the trust factor.
Do you think you can train or teach someone to be empathetic, or you think that's learned, or where are you at?
I think somewhat, yes. I think we've missed it. I talked to him about going into Quick Trip and making eye contact, and then get on the same level. If the person's not happy, don't be all bubbly with them. If they're happy, be a little bit more happy. Like, and then I'll watch them. How do they? If the client sits up, are you sitting up at the table? The box of Kleenex is not in the corner, it's at the table. So the client grabs it when they want it. If there was a death situation and they're crying, like those soft skills, I think can be taught. Some people are just better naturally at it than not. But, maybe mom and dad didn't teach it, or grandpa and grandma or whatever. I do think that they can, if they have the right core values, they have some of it. It's just, how do you express it?
And when you came into the club the last time, you talked about what you just said, and I think it really resonated with students. They came away, they want to hear it not from Dan anymore, but they want to hear it from someone else.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you talking about that with our students again, because it's really very helpful, and continue to do that.
Yeah. And I love showing up and doing that. They also you guys use FDC Plan on Purpose, our software that we use. So I'm able to get over and teach one class anyway, for 1 hour. Yeah. Which is great. So, Dan, thank you so much. Congratulations on the book. Good luck with everything. And we're here to help with whatever we can do.
Yeah, my pleasure. This was just great. Thank you very much.
You bet. Yeah. Take care. Bye.